All right, guys, we're back here again. It is the 19th of September, so it's been a little bit of a minute since the last video here. But we have the Fall Festival films all kind of screened, the ones that hit the early three festivals. That's Venice, Toronto, and Telluride. So we're going to do quick-ish recap on those. And then we did have actually some late-breaking news today here as far as a category switch-up. So with that being said, I'm also going to go over just a couple of changes I've made since my very first predictions. I haven't. I don't know, when we get to it, yeah, we can look and see how many like major changes there were, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be that significant. We've got our stormtrooper looking over my shoulder here too for me here. So if I slide over something and I block him out for a while, okay, that's why. But I'm trying to set it up so that it's kind of funny that way. But anyways. We'll go ahead and get started here with the wrap-up, and I kind of just started with Telluride's films, and then went over the films that were at Venice, and then over the films that were at TIFF. So some of these do cross over. I think, Promised Land, I think we said was the only one that hit all three. I think. I know Anatomy of a Fall was at quite a few of them, and that was also at Cannes earlier this year. Same with Zone of Interest, but yeah. Then at the end, there's a few that only hit TIFF as well. So we'll get into it here. Yeah, I guess we can start, though, generally speaking, though, with our Golden Lion winner at Venice, just to kind of recap that. Your Golden Lion winner was Poor Things, the Yorgos Lanthimos film with Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe. There's probably a couple other names in there, but those are, the three kind of headliners there. And we'll talk about the individual reactions, the critic reactions and stuff to it too, but that really shot it up in the Oscar odds. I had it kind of middle of the pack to start out with, and yeah, early on I said, yep, I'm putting Yorgos in there for Best Director. I think he's got the second or third best odds right now on Gold Derby. He's really going up there. So yeah, so that one is really hitting, and yeah, so it sounds like that one's going to be in there for sure. Telluride, as we know, does not have awards, but TIFF does. They have the People's Choice Award. They pick your overall winner, your first runner-up, your second runner-up. So the winner for the People's Choice Award was a film that really nobody I heard talking about. Now, there's probably a couple people out there now saying, oh, we knew that. Bullshit. No, I heard absolutely nobody talk about this. American Fiction. Had never heard of it. Came out and won big at TIFF. Now, that being said, and I always have to do this because there's a couple People's Choice Award winners that come and go in the Oscar season. Usually they stick around a little bit at least. Usually they're at least in the discussion. I mean, it doesn't always work out that way, but yeah, just to go back here over the last few years, we had 2 out of the 3 get Best Picture nominations last year. That's Fabelmans and Women Talking. The year before, we had The Power of the Dog and Belfast as 2 of the 3. Those are both nominees. Nomadland was our last Best Picture winner to also win at People's Choice at TIFF. You had Green Book before that. You had La La Land for half a second before that. Interesting enough, it's weird to note, too, that something like Moonlight was not even in the top 3. Instead, you had Queen of Katwe sneak in there, as well as Lion. Lion was a Best Picture nominee, but Queen of Katwe kind of didn't make much of an impact there. Room was a Best Picture nominee that won here with Spotlight, which was our Best Picture winner, being also in the running there. 12 Years a Slave won here. King's Speech won here. So, yeah, and we can go back. Slumdog Millionaire was also one. So that bodes really good things for American Fiction. It's Cord Jefferson, by the way. This is his, I believe, directorial debut, because he's worked on some TV stuff, but this is his first film. And just kind of briefly recap this one, you've got Jeffrey Wright starring in this, and then Tracy Ellie Ross and Sterling K. Brown, John Ortiz, and Issa Rae, and Adam Brody are also in the cast. So you got a few recognizable names. Let's see here. It's not going to come out here in the States until early November, which, again, that's typically a good time to release a film. It's coming from MGM, and MGM, I'm going to off the top of my head, I don't know if they've got any other like huge prospects out there this year that could possibly get some Oscar contention. I was gonna say, if memory serves, I mean, they got Creed 3 out, but we know that's probably not gonna, make a gigantic dent. Trying to think what else they have out this year. I'm not really, no, I'm not really seeing much else out from them so far. There's probably one or two, but I'm just not pulling it right now. The Holdovers, the Alexander Payne film, which I was not very enthusiastic about after the trailer and stuff, that became our runner-up film, and your third place one there is Miyazaki's new film, The Boy and the Heron. So, or is it Heron? I think it's Heron. But yeah, so generally speaking, that's, amongst a crowd of some other films there, that's, a couple surprises in there for sure. And yeah, I mean, most of these films at these festivals, of course, usually they do well. Once in a while at TIFF, you have one or two that crash and burn, and we did have a couple this year. But some of them are a little more high profile than others, But yeah, we'll go ahead and let's do the full wrap up now. So again, I started with just films at Telluride just because that one wraps up first. Yeah. There's another film that was at this one, Telluride, that I did not talk about that a few people actually picked up on and really enjoyed. That's All of Us Strangers, which is a Searchlight has this one. It's 100% from Rotten Tomatoes. I didn't see how many reviews. I think it's probably only in the neighborhood of 10 or 15. But average rating is still an 8.5 out of 10, which is pretty strong. And we have seen all the reviews have said Andrew Scott. Andrew Scott is a name to look out for after this film, and he's done a few films, of course, but evidently he has a really good leading role in that. So I've heard good things about that one. Anatomy of a Fall, we have mentioned, that's still at 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, 8.5 out of 10. That was our Palme d'Or winner at Cannes this year. I expect it to actually do really good things when we get to the Oscars. So we'll get back to that one. The Bike Riders, new Jeff Nichols film, is 92%. Average rating is only 5.9 out of 10, though, so a little bit more mixed on this one. Jeff Nichols' films, usually they do get that, anywhere from 80 to 95% range on Rotten Tomatoes, but we do he always has a couple detractors on his film. This one, the trailer I did see, and it looks interesting. At times it does kind of look like, it's going to be more of an homage to something like Easy Rider, some of those late 60s, early 70s kind of rebellious films. But then it also has like a little bit of like that more modern, like Sons of Anarchy kind of feel to it as well. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to jump out, first opportunity to see it, but I'll probably end up seeing it at some point. El Conde, which is the Pablo Larraín film, something about one of the dictators from one of the countries being a vampire or something. I don't know, kind of sound interesting. But 82%, average rating is 7.1 out of 10, and it was actually also at Venice, and that won a screenplay prize at Venice, so that's worth something. But yeah, I really haven't heard, this one being like a huge one that Netflix is going to, go all in on this year as far as, major Oscar contention. Maestro, I think, is probably their strongest bet right now. Across many categories. So yeah, I would probably say that's where they're going to fire a lot of their ammunition right there. Line up the ammunition, whatever the hell. Then yeah, Holdovers though. I love Alexander Payne, but I was just not sure where this one was going to go. It does come out at 96%. Average rating is 8.5 out of 10. And as we mentioned, it was the runner-up for the People's Choice Award at TIFF. And yeah, it sounds like DeVito and Randolph and oh geez. Come on. I can pull his name here. Jesus Christ. It's kind of getting late in the day, so if my brain's not firing, then that's why. Paul Giamatti. Yeah, Paul Giamatti is getting some, obviously some good notice as well. And I generally speaking, I'm still not pulling the trigger yet on this film to get like all the awards. Like it's not, I don't have it in for picture or director yet, or even I originally had Paul Giamatti first pick as Best Actor winner, but I've pulled him out. Yeah, I mean, it could still, come along, but I'm just gonna hold out for now. You see what I'm going with there? Holdovers, hold out. But yeah, I'm just not 100% sure on this one yet. I get the sense that you're going to have some Oscar voters, even though it does have Payne's name attached to it, even though Giamatti's in it. You're going to see, I think, some Oscar voters just kind of, if they just get the experience I had just watching the one trailer, they might not get the sense that this is for them, but I don't know. Maybe they will. Now, I've not heard this name pronounced either way, Niad or Nyad. It's the Annette Bening film where she's the Olympic swimmer or whatever. 94%, which is a high rating, but the average rating, though, it's down at a lowly 6.1 out of 10. So critics were a little more, we like it, but we don't love it in this case. Which to me spells, yeah, it's probably getting a shot at Annette Bening, and it's getting a shot for, actually, Jodie Foster got a bunch of great notices. Actually, I've heard, Annette Bening, I've heard, oh yeah, she's as good as always, but Jodie, man, she's good. And she did have the, I can't even pronounce the name of it. The one she had a couple years ago that she won the Globe for. It started with an M, whatever that was. Not Mandalorian, but it was like whatever that film was that everybody was like, oh, she's going to get her third Oscar win and stuff, and then it just disappeared after the Golden Globe win. Whatever that one was. She got really good notices for that one as well. This one, since this is another Netflix film, I think this is one that'll have a little bit more of a public eye on it. Also, it looks like it might have a better shot at landing multiple nominations versus that other film. So, Jodie, I think, can stick around this time. It's a little early. The film does not come out until... Boy, sometimes Netflix, they kind of hold their release dates until later on. But this one does say October 20th. So, about a month, almost a month until this one's out on Netflix. So, yeah. Then we'll get to Poor Things, 98%. Average rating is a 9.3 out of 10, which I believe is the highest rating for any film at any of these festivals. That's pretty damn impressive. Basically, the word out of it is, out of Telluride and I think, and Venice, is, damn. Emma Stone gives her best performance to date. Yorgos hits it again with another big winner. Mark Ruffalo sounds like he's very much in contention for supporting actor. And, yeah, it's going to get a lot of love in the tech categories as well. Like the design categories, it's a shoe-in to be in competition, deep competition in that one. You can maybe, spot those categories as early front-runner for this film. Editing is probably a good bet. Cinematography is a good bet. I mean, it sounds like this one... It's going to come close. It'll probably do about the same number of nominations as The Favorite, but yeah, the difference is The Favorite had, it still had a bunch of tech nominations, but it also had 3 acting nominations, director, picture, screenplay on top of all those. So yeah, this one I see closer to like that 6 to 10 range. I don't quite see it going, obviously 10 would be double digits. But I don't see it getting to like the 11, I think, that The Favorite had. I believe, if my memory serves, that was the number that The Favorite had, was 11 nominations. But, yeah. But it's still, I still think this one, it's this one, Killer of the Flower Moon, and Oppenheimer, I think, are going to be your 3 films that that lead nominations, or are in contention to lead nominations come Oscar morning. Unless we have something like Anatomy of a Fall really surprise us and really go in strong. Trying to think what else. Color Purple, if that one comes through with some really good performances in the tech categories, that could come through and come close to double digits as well. Maestro, I don't know if I see Maestro as a double digit nominee. Boy, because that one I feel is going to hang around in a few categories. Barbie, I don't quite see that one being a 10 nominee film either, but it's gonna get some support for sure. So yeah. So that's that one. Then we do have The Promised Land, which is the Mads Mikkelsen stars in that one. At least I can't remember who directed it, but it's 87%, 6.6 out of 10. I don't think it has been picked up for U.S. distribution yet, so we'll see if it even lands in this year. So yeah, I don't really have much else to add about that one. Rustin, which is the a film we talked about a little bit last time, 85%. Average rating is a 6.4 out of 10, but the word kind of begins and ends with Coleman Domingo's performance. His lead acting performance in this as Rustin does sound like it's the real deal. Sounds like this is, this is the guy that just did Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So it kind of sounds like it's more like that. It's like, yep, it'll get the acting bids for sure. We'll see if it can land anything else. And in this case, the thing with Ma Rainey's is, at one point in the season, we did think that was in contention to be one of the more nominated films of the year. it did look like, okay, you're going to get 2 acting nominations for sure, maybe even 3 if Glenn Turman or one of those other guys can get in supporting actor. Director would be tough, but picture is in. Screenplay is in. And then you go down the line with what it actually did get in the tech categories. So at one point we thought that one was a double-digit nominee. Ended up being, what was it, 5 nominations, maybe 6? It just didn't quite land. Rustin, I think we're already setting those goalposts back significantly compared to that film. It sounds like Coleman Domingo, and that might be it. That might be the only support it gets, generally speaking, from the Academy, unless it can sneak into a couple of those tech categories. I'm not sure if it does, but like if it has an original song, that would be a really good get for that film if they could, if it has it. I personally haven't heard if it does or not, but I'll tell you what, though. As we've seen evidence here in the last few years, it doesn't matter where your film is coming from. Whether you're passing with their Tessa Thompson or Ruth Negga, or if you are Jodie Foster in that film, or if you're from last year, Eddie Redmayne for The Good Doctor, those solo performances that you're not expected to get anything else, just one acting nomination, God, those are a struggle to get in as of late. So that, I mean, and that unfortunately puts Rustin in a really tough spot, because if it doesn't have any other categories where it's going to be really in contention, that one can just slip right through the cracks when it comes to the screeners, even if some of those other precursor awards like the Globes, like SAG, like BAFTA even potentially, even if they nominate those performances, sometimes they just slip through the cracks and the Oscar voters just go right over it. So that's a really bad spot to put the film in, but yeah, I just have to call it in that way and say, okay, it's going to be tough. I'm still keeping him in the Best Actor race for now, but those can be tricky when you're the only surefire bet for your film, especially in a big category like an acting race where you have a bigger base of voters that you're going to go for. That's tough. That gets tough. Saltburn, which is the Emerald Fennell sophomore effort, 82%, but the average rating is an 8.5 out of 10, so you had a couple naysayers, but everyone else really, really liked it. Yeah, but I was going to say, Barry Keoghan, yeah. He kind of sounded like he was an early, okay, he could get in, kind of thing. I think the Best Actor race has heated up a little bit since then, with Andrew Scott potentially being a dark horse, with Jeffrey Wright now kind of putting himself in there with his performance in American Fiction. Yeah, I'm not super optimistic about his chances right now, but we got a little ways till the film comes out. We'll see what, when more critics get their eyes on it, we'll see what they like and stuff, and if it goes up or down. Wildcat, which is Ethan Hawke's film, I'm not even going to try it because he's done so much around films with writing and stuff that I don't know if this is his directorial debut or not, but his daughter is in it. 67%, average rating is a 5.5 out of 10, which is actually on the really lower end. We got a couple lower coming up, but from some of those TIFF-only films. But yeah, this one, I didn't think this one was going to be a huge player by any means, but yeah, looks like one that's kind of just there. Zone of Interest, I think we just talked about, that was another Cannes player. It was 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Average rating is a 9 out of 10. So sounds like that one, didn't take a hit by any means. So yeah, that one we knew was going to get good reviews anyways. Then we'll go, next ones here for a little while are films that were at Venice. And again, some of these do cross over, so I just kind of went that way. Evil Does Not Exist, which is the, can't pronounce the guy's name, the guy who did Drive My Car. His follow-up, 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. The average rating, though, is a little bit lower than some would have thought, 7.6 out of 10. It did win a grand jury prize at Venice, so there were definitely, it had its supporters out there. Yeah, and this one, I'm going to look up, because I can't remember if I read or not if this one actually got picked up. Because I think it was Hamaguchi, that's the director's name, yeah. I can't remember if this one, because I think, if memory serves, Drive My Car was a Neon pickup here in the States. I think. Again, unless I'm dreaming that, but, okay, where is Drive My Car? There it is. I thought it was Neon that picked it up. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not seeing it listed here at least, but yeah, I can see a studio like that picking this one up. But yeah, the fact that this one has not been picked up like immediately, boy, I don't know. I don't know if there's like a tough subject matter or something about it, but and they just didn't want to go for it. I don't know if the continuing SAG, AFTRA strikes, and WGA strikes and stuff, if that has anything to do with it, probably not. But because we've seen Netflix has picked up a couple things and stuff, so yeah. Um, yeah, so we'll see if it's in contention this year or if it's going to be one of those that competes in 2024. Ferrari, the new film by Michael Mann, came out 75%. Average rating is a 6.2 out of 10, so it doesn't sound like this is the next Insider from him. No. Yeah, generally speaking, I've heard, yeah, this one does go a little over the top, and some people just didn't care for some of the performances. Adam Driver, for example, not say he got the worst reviews of his career, but I heard a couple that just did not care for his performance. But others said, oh, I liked it. So, kind of 50-50 there. Then we've got the man, David Fincher, his new film, The Killer. 81%. Average rating is a 7.2 out of 10. So that's a little lower than we're used to for Mr. Fincher. Yeah, and this one, generally speaking, even before, when the season is in its infancy here, The Killer has been one I think a lot of people have just not really bought into yet. It's kind of in the middle of the pack there for like Netflix. Again, they've got a couple more films that they're going to be focusing on for sure. And yeah, so this one, this might be more like Gone Girl and less like Social Network or some of his other ones. Curious Case of Benjamin Button, for example. Then we have Maestro, 93%. The average rating is a 7.7 out of 10. I'm going to just cross-verify here, cross-examine, if you will. A Star is Born. Where was the average rating out of 10 on that one? Because I thought it was a little lower. Average rating is 8 out of 10, so it is a little lower than Star is Born, which is interesting because for me, I mean, the Star is Born story has been told, so many times, so I was like, okay, it's okay for him to open with this. Maestro, again, the behind the scenes of how long they've been trying to get a movie about Bernstein out there with Spielberg and Scorsese still attached to this in some capacity, this is one I'm a lot more excited for personally. So to see it come out with, just a little bit of a lower rating, okay. But, I still think it looks really good. It looked really cute from that first trailer. Basically, yeah, everybody's saying, yep, this is a really strong sophomore effort behind the camera for Bradley Cooper. And still sounds like, yeah, in front of the camera, he's still giving some good performances. So, yeah. I think if you're Netflix, I think you got to lean into this one a little bit more than like The Killer, a little bit more than Nyad, a little bit more than... Again, there's probably a couple more that I'm just totally spacing on right now. But I think that's your strong play there. Okay, then the next one here is Origin, which is the Ava DuVernay's new film. 79%, average rating is a 6.6 out of 10. But the big word out of this one is Ingenue Ellis, who was nominated a couple of years ago for King Richard and is back again. This is really, I think, the first time I've heard her name since the Oscars were over, but unfortunately... Because I did really like her performance in King Richard and hope she would get more stuff. Okay, sounds like she got this at least. But yeah, I've just not heard that this one is one that's going to carry. It's like, it sounds like it's a little bit divisive as far as some reactions and stuff to the screenings and stuff. So that's never a great sign. Never a great sign. You want to be universally hated, or you want to be universally loved when it comes to this stuff. Because if you're in the middle and you're mixed, sometimes it just does not work. Does not work. Next up is Priscilla, the Priscilla Presley, not Priscilla from Cinderella story, as we talked about last time. This one is coming in at 94%. Average rating is 7.4 out of 10 from Sofia Coppola. And Kaylee Spaney is the Best Actress winner at Venice for her performance here. So it sounds like, again, this is another Netflix one. I don't know. We'll see. Again, you got potentially Carey Mulligan is also going to be in contention for Best Actress for Maestro, so you're going to be kind of fighting with yourself there. Yeah, so that might be a little tougher for that one to break through. And again, just the gist I'm going to get from this potentially is, okay, Best Actress, yes, it's a possibility, but what else? It doesn't sound like there's a lot else they're going to be fighting for here. So again... that's a tough spot to put a film in. Just a couple more here from Venice. Coup de Chance, which is the new film from Woody Allen, 89%, 6.8 out of 10 for those who are curious. But yeah, we know that one's not going to get anything close to a U.S. distribution anytime soon. And then we have Richard Linklater's new film, Hitman, which got a 98% from Rotten Tomatoes and 8.6 out of 10 average rating. And it sounds like Glenn Powell has one of the best performances he's ever given in this one. And yeah, Netflix did pick this one up for some chunk change. I think it was like 20 million, 25 million, somewhere in that range. But again, it feels like their slate's already kind of full, so they're really gonna have to lean in on Glenn Powell being the only nominee for this one. And again, that's a really, really tough spot to put your film in. Okay, so Boy and the Heron was the opening film for TIFF. Really did not disappoint. 100% from Rotten Tomatoes. Miyazaki's film is an 8.7 out of 10. As we mentioned, it was the second runner-up. So really, really, really good news out of that one. I think this one, unfortunately, in the animated feature category, it's probably going to get steamrolled by Spider-Man, but it's fighting for second or third place, and there is an off chance, because we do have another Spider-Man film coming out, which they can give that one another Oscar to later. But Miyazaki, who has, he's flirted with saying I'm retiring before, hasn't worked for him yet to get that Oscar win. I don't know. This one, when it's that much later since he's released the film, maybe the Oscar voters are a little more buying into it this time, and they might say, okay, this might be our last chance to recognize arguably one of the biggest names worldwide in animation working today. So, yeah, sometimes the Oscars, with opportunities like that, they just let them go. But we'll see. Dumb Money was another one that screened at TIFF. And this one is now in limited release. I believe it's going to wide release. If it's not this week, it's next week. I'm going to triple check myself on that one just to make sure I have it right. 29th. Okay, yeah, so we got a couple, just a little over another week there before that one does go into wide release where I'll be able to see it. But still a 84% from Rotten Tomatoes, and that's with a lot more reviews, though, because, again, it's more publicly screened now. Average rating is a 7, just plain 7 out of 10, 7.0 out of 10. Yeah, and it sounds like, critics were entertained by this, but probably not a huge Oscar player. That's fine. Then we do get American Fiction. It's 96%. Average rating is 8.2 out of 10. And does sound like it's a film that kind of does have a little bit of a racial angle to it about stereotypes and stuff, and about, how people are so quick to jump to stereotypes and everything. So, I don't know. I feel like this one, because one of the first things for some reason my brain went to was Green Book. Because Green Book, as we recall, went into TIFF and people were like, oh, okay, I don't know what this is, but Viggo's in it, Mahershala Ali's in it. Okay, it's from the Farrelly brothers? Oh, interesting. And they watched it and they loved it. And, when I saw the film, I loved it too. I thought this is a really, really entertaining film. And, very comedic, had enough heartwarming touch but it didn't go over the edge. It was kind of genuine in its approach, which, I'm hoping The Holdovers does have that kind of effect too. But and doesn't go overboard with it. But and I get it. Some people might think, oh, it gets a little too chummy with, oh, it's Christmas at the end, and of course it's about trying to get home and blah 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 blah, all that stuff, and forming a friendship through an unlikely bond and stuff. And it feels like, there has been some people that say, yep, that's been done to death. This just didn't work for me. Blah blah blah. But it still does never ceases to stun me how quickly those bloggers and stuff can turn on a film like this when it goes from, oh, it's just a cute little movie, to, oh wait, now it's an Oscar frontrunner, now we fucking hate it. Now it's dog shit. It's got to sit with whatever. It's got to sit with the lowest ranking of all the Best Picture winners if it does win, and it didn't. It ended up winning. I kind of thought of that just like, what if it's the inverse here, where it's like, okay, this one also has to do a little bit with some racial stuff and everything, which is not to say that other films, of course, from TIFF have not dealt with racial stuff, but just because it's a People's Choice Award winner, that's kind of why my brain went to it. And I feel like we could see the opposite here, because it is coming from, if I'm not mistaken, the director is a person of color, if I'm not mistaken. It's got a mostly black cast in it, so it feels like it's kind of an inverse of that. So I'm like, I doubt this one gets the same target that on its back that Green Book did. Still, that being said, I do think because this one at the moment is kind of under the radar, still a little bit under the radar. I think it's going to be in contention for Best Picture for sure. It's not. I don't know if it's going to work its way up to a contention for Best Director the way Green Book did. Screenplay feels like a good bet. Jeffrey Wright could definitely be nominated. He's been one of those actors that, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, has really started. His name has started to circulate more and more and more because he's been kind of a background kind of character actor for a while, and he's been always good, always consistently good. But it's like now he's starting to get more of a chance. Now with some of his like Wes Anderson roles and stuff, especially French Dispatch, he was arguably one of the best parts of that film. We finally get a big opportunity for him to shine. We finally get a big memorable role for him in something like that. And that's on top of some of the blockbusters and stuff that he's done. But sounds like, this could be a really good shot for him. And especially he's another actor that's worked with everybody. So it's, really helps with like SAG and some of those more industry-centered awards. I wouldn't even be shocked if he popped up at BAFTA, even though BAFTA sometimes does, not go for films that have something like American in the title, for example. I'm thinking this one does have some high hopes in some of those top-tier categories, but I don't see it being a widespread, I don't know if film editing is exactly in the cards here. And I don't think it's because I believe it's modern set film. I don't believe it's going to be huge in contention for some of those other tech categories. So then after that, there's a few films here that there's one here that we'll get to, but I think the rest of these are all alphabetical. But it's kind of weird because they kind of progressively get kind of worse until the end. The last one was actually one that people liked, but it's kind of funny. The Burial is the next one I'll mention here, which I didn't talk about this one. Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones are in this one. It sounds like it's a 90s set court case film. It is 100%, but it's only less than 10 reviews last I checked. The average rating is a 7.1 out of 10, but it sounds like, if anything, it's going to be more of a player at the Golden Globes in the comedy musical categories, less so at the Oscars. The Critic, with Ian McKellen in a leading role, 50%. Average rating is a 6.2 out of 10. Yeah, I didn't hear much great news about that one. The Dead Don't Hurt, which is another Viggo Mortensen directed film. He did one, was it Falling or something? Something like that. It came out about the same time as The Father and actually had a lot of the same type of storyline about it. This one the critics liked a little bit more, 85%, because I remember Falling didn't get great reviews. 6.8 out of 10 is the average rating there, so I haven't heard that one. I don't think has been picked up or anything. Michael Keaton's film, directing and starring in Knox Goes Away, I believe it was about a bank robber or something that has dementia, which sounds like that's been done before. 59%, average rating is a 5.9 out of 10. Again, probably not much there. Then we have Next Goal Wins, which I'm still looking forward to seeing this film. The trailer did have me laughing quite a bit. 48%. Average rating, though, is a 6.3 out of 10. So those that liked it really liked it, and those that didn't still like it, at least they were like, well, it's got good parts to it, which is unfortunate for me, because even though and again, this is another one like The Killer, where it's in the Best Picture echelon, doesn't sound like it was one that people had way up there for Best Picture yet or anything. I don't know. Part of me still wonders if, obviously when the film comes out, we'll see it and we'll see, okay, maybe it's just obviously just not a, really good film, or there's a lot of things to it that just generally the critics did not, warm up to. But part of me wants to say that the rating on this might come from them still not liking where Taika went after Jojo Rabbit, where it's then you got Thor, Love and Thunder, and it was not great. Which, personally, I don't know, I still like that one. I haven't seen it since the theater, so that probably tells something. But, yeah. Yeah, anyways. So that one, if anything, that's probably your biggest, because every year there's always an award for the biggest crash and burn at these fall festivals, a film that the studio or the director or the stars really hyped us up for, and then it comes out and just the reviews are just not good. This is probably the biggest one here, because some of the other ones here, the next two we'll mention, were below the radar, ones that people were not really expecting a lot out of, but they crash and burn a lot harder, actually, than this one did. That first one here is Pain Hustlers, which I believe was David Yates directed that one. The guy that did the recent Harry Potter films and the Fantastic Beasts films. 19%. Average rating 4.1 out of 10. Critics really did not like that one. Even though it's got Emily Blunt, and Chris Evans in it, and I think there were a couple other names when we mentioned that one, but yeah, that one's going nowhere. And part of me actually thought for a minute there, because obviously Emily's better chance this year is going to be in supporting actress for Oppenheimer. I was like, well, if she's decent enough in this film, or if the film gets enough good reviews, and if she's in a leading role in this one, I don't think she gets a double nod, obviously, but it's more like, okay, well, if they see her in that, but then they also see her in this, and it's like, oh, okay, so even if, because there's been a little bit of backlash on Oppenheimer for her role, at least, because it is, on the surface at least, it's another long-suffering wife role that we've seen in dozens and dozens of biopics before. Even though she's good in it and, works with the material she's given and everything. And I still absolutely love the film, even if that's something where I'm like, yeah, if it was me writing it, maybe we would have changed a couple other things around. But even as is, I still thought they went into that and they did a couple different things with it enough to where it didn't only get summarized as that. Yeah, it generally fits into that box. But, a couple of those scenes, like there's a scene where she gets, after she's been taking care of the kid all day and the kid just won't stop screaming, she gets really kind of violently drunk, and you're like, okay, she's very, adamant about this. And it's like, we don't always see that in some of those films with a long-suffering wife type role. Like we didn't see that, even though it's not the exact same thing. Banshees last year with, what's her name? Supporting actress, who played the sister. She never got super, volatile toward any of the other characters. She got mad and yelled at him once in a while and tried to put them in their place once in a while. But it never got to the point of where Emily Blunt gets to in that one scene in Oppenheimer. So yeah. But I was thinking if she does have a lead role where it's like, oh, you can see, she has that thing going on where it's like, okay, you can see her in multiple things. That very much helped Alicia Vikander in 2015 when she had Danish Girl, and she had an Ex Machina, and she had, what was the other major? There was a couple other roles out there, so it's like everyone had seen her through a couple things that year, so more than one thing. So I thought maybe that would help, but since this one is probably just going to get swept under the rug as quickly as possible, yeah. Then we have Pool Man, which I believe is another directorial debut for Chris Pine, 19% as well. Average rating is a 3.1 out of 10. Really did not care for that one, so that one got swept under the rug. And the last one here would be Woman of the Hour, which is Anna Kendrick directing that one. And if I'm not mistaken, did she also... not Woman of the Year. I was like, Woman of the Year, yeah, that's an older film, I know. But yeah, she is also in this one. And it was the dating game killer. That's right. Netflix also did pick this one up. And I don't know if they've got a release date on it yet. But yep, this is a Netflix pickup. This one fared a lot better, 92%. Average rating is a 7.6 out of 10. So this one I think does have a little bit more of a... I think it'll get a better release when it comes out. I think Netflix will kind of promote this one a little more highly and stuff. Is it going to be a big Oscar player? I don't think so, but I don't know. We'll see if it gets tossed around a couple things here and there. Okay, so so after that I would normally go into, after the Fall Film Festival, where do our Best Picture, these top 8 categories, where do our predictions now stand? But we've got late-breaking news as of a few hours ago, and it's a good thing I didn't film this earlier in the day. I was planning to, but I didn't quite get to it, and now we have a little more to talk about. We've got a change-up in the supporting actress category. Lily Gladstone, who I had out front, and I'm sure a lot of other people had out front for Killer of the Flower Moon. Interesting, because when I saw she was first in supporting, I'm like, okay, she's in that trailer quite a bit, and yeah, just basically a couple things I heard word of mouth is, yeah, she's kind of the lead role in this, alongside Leo DiCaprio. They are going lead. They are going lead for this for her. Personally, I feel like this is a big mistake. If I'm Netflix, I don't know why you're doing this. Supporting actress, I mean, not to say it's empty, competition-wise, but... because you got a couple people from The Color Purple, like Danielle Brooks and Taraji P. Henson, that are in there. Davine Joy Randolph is enjoying some good success off really good reviews for The Holdovers, so she could very easily jump into this race. Emily Blunt is in there. We know Jodie Foster just got a big push after Naiad, which is a Netflix film. Because I keep forgetting this is Apple. Killer of the Flower Moon is Apple, not Netflix. Julianne Moore, Penelope Cruz, Viola Davis. There's a couple other names in there. It's a little less crowded than Best Actress right now. Best Actress, Without Lily Gladstone, you've got Emma Stone. You've got Annette Bening. You've got Greta Lee. You've got Sandra Huller. You've got Fantasia Barrino for Color Purple. You've got Carey Mulligan. You got Margot Robbie potentially being in there. You got Natalie Portman and Kaylee Spaney. You've got Ingenue Ellis potentially being in there. It's a little more crowded. A lot more crowded. That's without Lily Gladstone in there. So personally, again, if I'm Apple, I unless there's a really, it's a very obvious lead role in supporting kind of thing, which does happen. It's kind of funny. We thought, with Viola Davis here a few years ago, she had Fences, which was pretty clearly a lead role. That got put into supporting and she won. And then she had Ma Rainey's, which even though she's a title character, she was put in lead. But you could argue she's a supporting character in that. She had a lot less screen time than Chadwick Boseman, who was in lead actor. At first it looked like he might go supporting, but boom, they put him up to lead actor, I think correctly so, rightfully so, because of the screen time and stuff. So, that being said, with Killer of the Flower Moon, with DiCaprio kind of being the main focus on the advertising and stuff of the film, obviously because he's Leo, the fact that it's an over 3 hour and 20-minute film, I would have understood if they kept her in supporting. Again, until we see the film and we just take a stopwatch to it and say, okay, she's in the film for an hour and 40 minutes when you cut out all the rest of her scenes or that she's not in or whatever. Unless it's like a very, very obvious thing where it's like, yep, she's in literally almost every scene. She has to be lead. Unless it's a case like that, which could happen. But yeah. But yeah, even then, obviously then you do run the shot of something like Lakeith Stanfield happening where it's like all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what is he doing in supporting actor? The Academy just put him there. the voters just said, nope, he's a supporting role, even though he was kind of clearly like a lead role. Yeah, we all remember that. But yeah, personally, again, if I'm Apple and, the general consensus is, oh, okay, she's going to be supporting. If I'm looking at the competition, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little like, okay, but I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah, so yeah, that's where I'm at on that. Okay. So, with that being said, here's my newest rendition, my latest update here on the Best Picture list. I'm keeping Oppenheimer out front. I've really, again, this is one, I know it's going to come in about a month or so. It's going to have a huge target on its back, and people are not going to want it to win all of a sudden because there's going to be a new shiny toy in the Oscar race that people are going to want to, admire and stuff. But still, I look at this still as a very high possibility as the most nominated film on Oscars morning. It does feel like, yep, Christopher Nolan is due. We've only nominated him once before for Best Director, so it feels like, okay, we're kind of ready to bestow this as his award-winning film, where it's like, yep, you've made it to the level of an Academy Award-winning director. Feels like we're still there right now. Killer of the Flower Moon is still in second for me. Color Purple is in third. Past Lives in fourth. I bumped up. I think I had Poor Things in fifth or sixth, or sixth or seventh last time. I bumped that up to fifth. So I think that one is still in really, really good shape. Maestro I put up into sixth place. I have American Fiction in seventh. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and put Barbie. I'm going to put Barbie in for Best Picture now. I have that in eighth place. I'm still, it's really tough, because again, we talked about its possibilities in other categories last time, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I've got in there as a ninth place, and it feels a lot more distant now. I might have to bite the bullet and say goodbye to that one, unfortunately, even though I absolutely loved that movie. And then I have Anatomy of a Fall in my 10th spot here. So I'm leaving out the holdovers for now. I feel like that's like a 12th or 13th place for me. Zone of Interest is also in that range. I think Napoleon I did have in there for a little bit. I've pulled that one. I feel like that one is still kind of floating around as a possibility. Air could sneak in there, but I feel like the buzz on that one has kind of died out a little bit. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of about it. In the director lineup, I still have Christopher Nolan out front here for Oppenheimer, then Martin Scorsese. Celine Song I have in there for Past Lives. Yorgos Lanthimos in there for fourth place for Poor Things. And my fifth place vote, I need to remember, who did I have in there last time? Was it Todd Haynes I had in there for a minute? I can't remember who it was. But now it's I have Justine Triet in there for Anatomy of a Fall. Now, here's my thing. Remember, in the last few years, if we go through the Oscar history here, there's always that kooky fifth slot for Best Director. Whether it's Bennett Miller for Foxcatcher, which I've told this story before, but since we're recapping it, we'll go ahead and go over it again. Once we're done with the predictions here, this will be the end of the video, so we're not going to go an hour and a half this time, I promise. I had Bennett in there for a long, long time in 2014 for the Best Director race. I had him in there, and I'm like, he's going to get in, and he kept missing everywhere. I'm like, but he won Best Director at Cannes, and the film is still in contention. Because some of those, films that win at Cannes or have a major award at Cannes, sometimes they just don't pick up steam, or they only end up in like the international feature category. I don't think that's going to be the case with Anatomy of a Fall. And it wasn't the case for Foxcatcher, because that one ended up, and then Bennett Miller got there. And then we got Room with Lenny Abrahamson, and we're like, I just had a sixth sense when I was first watching the film. I'm like, this director's getting it. I'm like, I don't know how. It was like some kind of cosmic or like astral projectural thing went right in my head. I'm like, Best Director. I'm like, I really don't know what. And if memory serves, I did have him, and I dropped him after Room kind of disappointed at some of those early award things, and it didn't get a bunch of love from, I think Golden Globes didn't give it a bunch of love. SAG, as we thought, it was kind of mixed there. It did get Jacob Tremblay in for supporting actor, but yeah, and then obviously Brie Larson. But what did it? I can't remember what it was. It was something where I'm like, oh, he didn't get in, so I'm not putting him in. And son of a bitch, he showed up. I had a similar thing happen with Mel Gibson the following year, where I had him in for a while, pulled him, even though he got the Golden Globe nomination, and then he got in. I'm like, I knew I'd gotten it wrong as soon as Oscar morning had come. Then you got, of course, Cold War with, I can't even pronounce the guy's name. He got in, and all of a sudden we're like, whoa, okay. He did get a BAFTA nomination like the week before for that film, and that film did do a little better at BAFTA than it did at the Oscars, but still it was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. And then 2019, we were all like, okay, we know, we feel really good about Bong Joon-ho, and that was the 93rd Academy Awards? 92nd, okay, that was close. And then who was our other... No, we didn't have any other, like, surprise prize ones that year, that's right. So it's like, okay, they've kind of been doing that. And then Thomas fucking Vinterberg I screwed myself with that one. Because I did have The Father getting the director nomination at the last minute. Florian Zeller, I threw him in. Even though Vinterberg was a nominee at BAFTA, and he kind of took that role of, I think it was Pavlovsky or whatever his name was, for Cold War. And I was like, for a minute there, I had those five. I had Chloe Zhao, I had Vinterberg, I had Fincher, I had Lee Isaac Chung, and I had Emerald Fennell in there for Best Director. But I missed it because I tricked myself out with putting Florian Zeller in instead of Vinterberg. So we're like, okay. So they're still sticking with one of those BAFTA nominees. And then Hamaguchi got in for Drive My Car. So that one, it felt like, yep, everybody, when he got into BAFTA, we were all like, boom, put him in at the Oscars, and yep, there he showed up. And it also got the picture nomination, which some of us, like myself, I was not expecting. Then last year we're like, okay, it was probably late November, early December. I put in Edward Berger. I had to remember the guy's name. Edward Berger for All Quiet on the Western Front. Because I'm like, it's an international film, produced in Germany. This one, it's going to get in. And then, it kind of kept disappointing, but I held strong. I'm like, nope, it's going to be in there. And it kept disappointing. And then BAFTA hit. And then it was like, got what was it, 14 BAFTA nominations. So I'm like, boom, told you. And Berger got in. It was like a bunch, like Spielberg didn't even, I don't think he was even on the short list or whatever for Fabelmans for directing at BAFTA. But it was like a whole bunch of people missed at BAFTA. So I'm like, I nailed it this time. Yes. I was one of the first ones to say Edward Berger's in. And they get through the field. I remember this. Oscars morning, they go through the field, and it's like, yep, the Daniels is for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Martin McDonagh for Banshees. I'm like, yes, so far so good. Then Spielberg, yep. Then Todd Field, yep. And then they get to that last name, and they say Ruben Östlund, and I'm like, oh my God, you're kidding me. I'm like, you are fucking kidding me. I'm like, you're shitting me right now. Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness, a film that had disappeared from most everyone's radar outside of potentially like screenplay. It was like, what the fucking hell? And it was like, oh my God. But guess what? That was a Palme d'Or winner. Who's our Palme d'Or winner this year? Anatomy of a Fall. And not that it's going to be everything, but the Academy did get a little heat last year for not putting in a female in the directing category, right? Justine Triet is a female director. So that's the other thing too. Anatomy of a Fall kind of does feel like it's a film kind of similar to Drive My Car or Triangle of Sadness. It's a film that it's getting, it's a film that's produced outside of the U.S., but it's getting some buzz to it. And it does feel like one that can make the list for Best Picture. Alongside, Zone of Interest is another one. So it feels like this one, with Jonathan Glazer being the director for that one, it feels like these two are at odds. So I'm kind of looking through the field here. And I'm like, okay, is there another director out there? Someone, because again, Oslin, after we looked at it there, we remembered Oslin, oh, by the way, this guy's last couple of films have been in contention for some Oscar play. Force Majeure, which, if I remember correctly, just missed at the Oscars for International Feature. That one, was close. Then he had The Square. The Square actually did get nominated. So this is a guy that's been around for a while and has done some stuff. Then Triangle of Sadness happens, and that's when the director's branch is like, yep, we'll go to him. So I'm looking around here. And I'm like, okay, is there any other directors out there who's got a film right now where it's like, okay, they've been around a minute, they've done a couple things, they've shot a couple things that the Academy has paid attention to in the past. And I'm going to triple check because I was like, I didn't know if I had already done this or not, but I'll tell you what. I don't think anyone else has talked about this, but you've got a film called Perfect Days from Wim Wenders, which I believe at first I thought I read it and said it was a documentary, but it is not. He's not a documentary. He's a feature filmmaker. You do have that one, which screened at Cannes. I don't believe it's been picked up for U.S. distribution yet, but you've got Perfect Days from Wim Wenders. Wim Wenders, he's been around a while, right? When you look at it, he's got a couple films that have been up for Palme d'Ors. He does, some of his films do go to Cannes. He won the Golden Lion for State of Things at Venice back in the 80s. He's got Paris, Texas, of course, which did, that was the Palme d'Or winner. And I thought I saw that he won another one, but I'm not seeing it now. He's gotten a nomination before for Pina, which was the documentary here a few years ago. So he's been around a minute. What if Wim Wenders very much surprises us? What if Perfect Days is his film? This could be a film that strikes. So I'm going to keep him as a 7th, 8th, 9th place pick right now for the directing race. And this is already, again, this year, it feels like the director's race kind of is starting to crowd up a little bit here. By this other film, Perfect Days, it did also win a ecumenical jury prize at Cannes, and it won Best Actor for Koji Yakusho. And it does sound like it is set in Japan, the film is. So, you heard it here. I don't know if you heard it here first, but you definitely, that Pablo Larraín with El Conde, I don't know if that one's quite going to have the traction. It's not going to be up for anything else, I don't think, El Conde. I don't think it's been selected to be like an international feature contender or anything like that. But he would be one that I would look out for a little bit because, his name, he's more of his films have been more films produced more in the U.S., though, with Jackie and with Spencer. Or if not in the U.S., they've been from Britain as well. So that one is a little more of a long shot. But that being said, I'm keeping out Greta Gerwig for now. I think she's definitely in contention. Alexander Payne could sneak in there. Jonathan Glazer could very easily get in there. I wouldn't vote out Ridley Scott even yet for Napoleon. Ava DuVernay possibly for Origin, but again, that one is kind of divisive enough. I feel like she's a more distant pick there. Bradley Cooper for Maestro could get in there. Blitz Bazawul for Color Purple. Yeah, it's I've even seen a couple people put in votes for Miyazaki for Boy and the Heron here, and that'd be a real breakthrough to get that one in for Best Director. But I don't see it happening. But that director's race is going to be weird. So just hold on to your hats there. In Best Actor, I do have Bradley Cooper still out front for Maestro, then Cillian Murphy in a very close second for Oppenheimer, Leo in third for Killers of the Flower Moon, Coleman Domingo in fourth for Rustin, and Jeffrey Wright in fifth place for American Fiction. So I've taken out Joaquin Phoenix. I think he's still in play, though, for Napoleon. Paul Giamatti's definitely in the discussion for The Holdovers. Andrew Scott, we'll see. He does sound like a little bit more of a dark horse right now for All of Us Strangers. Does sound like the Bob Marley film, One Love, is going to screen in time, so Kingsley Ben-Adir. Keep an eye out for him once the film starts screening in time. We'll see if he can sneak into like a SAG or possibly a Golden Globe nomination there. Barry Keoghan is also starting to sound like a little bit more of a dark horse here. Yeah, and I think after that it gets a little tougher. We mentioned a lot of names here in the Best Actress race, but I switched it up. It's not happening yet, and I think it's smart not to get this narrative out too early. But with Netflix behind it, with it also getting a potential other bid in supporting actress, I feel like Annette Bening, they could make a real push this year to say, this is Annette Bening's year. The same push we had for Julianne Moore, the same push they had back in the 80s for Geraldine Page. It's like, this could be just the moment that we finally get her Oscar win. Almost happened with Glenn Close a couple times here recently, but not quite. So yeah, I think and the problem with The Wife, for example, with Glenn Close, not only was that the only nominee for the film, and it was a massively underseen film, but that narrative took off very early. So by the time we did get to, even with the Golden Globes and SAG giving her the win, there was still a thing of, but we really like The Favorite. We really like Olivia Colman. Her performance in that was really, really good. It was my personal favorite between the two. And we could see that narrative totally collapse again. We could see Emma Stone, even though she's already won, we could see her get some love here. She's actually leading the polls right now in Gold Derby. Sandra Huller, I think, has a chance to actually upset here. And if that film gets widely seen enough, that could be one that people really like. Fantasia Barrino is a possibility here to upset her as well, because that's a role where it's like, in retrospect, a lot of people said Whoopi probably could have won Best Actress that year. And that giving it to her for Ghost a few years later was kind of a makeup prize, so we'll see if that, narrative comes back and it's like, oh, yep, we can award the same role here, just actually get it right this time, so to speak. But no, for now, I think Netflix, they need to lean into that, and they need to start doing it at some point. I agree, it's probably smart not to do it right now. But, and the fact, also we did look it up, because I had mistaken it too. I thought she'd been like a 5 or a 6-time nominee. She's only been up 4 times before, so it's not like, it's not impossible to say, oh, this is her last chance, but I don't know. You never know. You never know. And it's like, this would be her first nomination in, what's it been, 13 years? 13 years, I think, since Kids Are All Right. So who knows what role she's going to have possibly popping up for her that much further down the road. Because if we don't give it to her this time, what if it's another 15 years? Is she even around in 15 years? It's like you get those scary thoughts once in a while where it's like, oh, okay. So I have her up front, and I think at one point they do have to start deploying that narrative. They do have to start saying, look, Annette Bening, is she like consistent as an actress? Has she been in like a bunch of films over the years? No, she's been a little more picky-choosy, but man, she's a talented actress. And it does sound like she does have a really good role in this. So I think that will also really help her cause. So I have her up front, just for now. I switched that one up, so she's up front now. Greta Lee I have in second place. Sandra Huller in third. I feel like those two I could flip-flop, though, at given points. Emma Stone, I have her clear down in fourth, which feels low to me. But I feel like this is one, even if she gives a really great performance here, the win for La La Land was recent enough that I think... I just don't know if that's going to be like a Sally Field situation where it's like, yeah, it was really recent. Her 2 wins for Norma Ray and then for what was it? Colors of the Heart? No. Tales from the Heart? What the hell was that second one? Whatever that second one was she won for. The You Like Me, You Really Like Me one. Yeah, that one. Yeah, it was, even though it was only 5 years apart, it felt, it was really, really close, So they don't always do that. Mahershala Ali has been one where it's like, yeah, okay, that did happen. That was more recent, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll just see. Natalie Portman I have in 5th place. So I did kick out Fantasia. I think she could very, very quickly snap right back into this race. I just didn't know who to pull, because I feel like Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore, even if that film doesn't quite take off the way that Todd Haynes his film did last time with Carol, where it's like, yep, performances got in, and I believe the screenplay got in, but it kind of missed a lot of those other categories. I still feel like those two can get in. So I couldn't pull anyone there. So it's like, okay, Fantasia's out. Carey Mulligan, I feel that feels like one where she's going to get in too. So that one's really hard. Margot Robbie is an appetizing, very much a appetizing possibility here. She could very well get in this, especially if Barbie actually does go over really, really well and does end up closer to that 7, 8, 9 nomination type film. Not to say it will, but very well could. And yeah, I think we mentioned the rest of them here. And again, that's Lily Gladstone now you got to throw right into this, which, again, right now, as is, I don't know, man. As is right now, painting the picture here today on the 19th of September, I don't fit her into my 5. I can't kick anyone out yet. In supporting actor, we're going to flip to that one. This one, I've had a couple things change. So with Coleman, with his big role in Rustin now, seemingly, that could be a bigger role here for him and a bigger possibility at the Oscars. I've taken him down a few notches. For now, I'm just going to go Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, just because I had him in second place. John Magaro for Past Lives, I have in there in second. Ryan Gosling, I've now put in for Barbie, I have him in third, with Coleman in fourth and De Niro in fifth for Killers of the Flower Moon. So I'm keeping out Mark Ruffalo, and again, this is just a spot where I'm like, I don't want to kick Magaro out right now, because he's been falling in some of the odds and stuff, and it does feel like Past Lives could be one where it's like, okay, it's an early one, it is A24, but they had The Farewell pretty early too, actually even released a month later than Past Lives did, and that one couldn't stick around through the Oscar season. So that same fate could happen for Past Lives, and arguably I do have that one still a little high in some of these races, so I might have to bump that one down more respectively, but I'm not ready to kick him out just yet. So Ruffalo, I think, is close. A few people are still putting in, they're putting in Willem Dafoe as well for Poor Things, thinking, okay, a double nomination could happen, which, boy, when you go back, it's like, how many double nominees have we had here recently? We've had quite a few. The two guys in for Banshees last year, 2021. Didn't we have two nominees also in supporting actor for Power of the Dog. It was Jesse Plemons and Cody Smith-McPhee. Then the double nominees in 2020. Yep, that was in the same category for Judas and the Black Messiah. And before that, I know we had one, The Irishman. Yep, in supporting actor. So that supporting actor race has had so many doubles here the last few years. Then, of course, the two in supporting actress for The Favorite. So, yeah. And while we're at it, The Favorite had 10, not 11. Okay, so I was really close. I was just off by one. But, there's some people buying there that both Willem Dafoe and Mark Ruffalo are going to get in. But, weird, I don't have either of them in right now. We'll see. Otherwise, in this category, after that, it gets really, really, far afield. Because I know some people are saying this, I believe he's a newcomer, Dominic Sessa, who I believe is one of the other main characters in The Holdovers. Sounds like, okay, a couple people really like him in that film. A couple people like Charles Melton, I think is his actual name, for May December. But after that, it's like, it feels like we're really, really reaching here for stuff like, okay, Jesse Plemons in Killers of the Flower Moon. It doesn't sound like he's got a really big role there. Matt Damon in Oppenheimer, again, doesn't sound like that feels like a stretch to me. I was kind of curious to see, okay, because American Fiction was one that popped up. Is there anybody in the supporting races that are possibly in play for that? And of anything, I would say maybe Sterling K. Brown, just because he's a more noted name here. But I don't know. I haven't heard really, Tracy Ellis Ross for that one. I haven't heard a lot of people buzz about her. It's been most of the attention's been on Jeffrey Wright, but I think that one, it would really help that film out if they could get someone in either of these supporting races, or at least in contention for it. But doesn't sound like that's happening right now. In supporting actress, though, with Lily Gladstone out, I thought about this, and I actually was really close to saying Jodie Foster would take the lead here in supporting actress. I did not have her in previously, but then I'm like, okay, even though she's not been nominated recently, and she did miss out on that, it's not Manchurian, it was whatever the fuck it was. It was like, oh, come on, it was, whatever the film was, it was like, yeah, she can get in, and it's like, yeah, she couldn't even get in for that. She does have 2 Oscars on her mantle, and again, both those, actually, speaking to what we were talking about before, both those were in pretty close succession, too. There was The Accused in 88, well, that's just the year the film comes out, by the way, 88, and then Silence of the Lambs in 91. Yeah, and by the way, when we were talking about the two, double nominees in the same category, that goes back to 2017. So that's been a tradition here. The last 7 Oscars, we've had 2 nominees from the same film in one of the acting categories. So that was 3 Billboards, by the way. So yeah, I think it does happen this year though, but I think it's back in the actress supporting actress category here. So back to what I was saying though. Jodie Foster though, I was like, I don't know. Do they want to give her a third after so many years? Does she have a big enough role that it's they're going to give it to her again? I don't know. So I have her in third at the moment, and just I'm putting her as a placeholder for now. I don't really think it's going to like necessarily happen, but because it's like it's her first time in. But Emily Blunt, Oppenheimer, I'm just going to put her in just as a placeholder for now. Even though it's a great film and it's great technically and it's great acting wise too. I don't know if I see it winning 3 acting categories because Downey Jr. I have out front in supporting actor. I now have her out front, and Cillian Murphy he's a knock away in my ratings here from being the lead actor placeholder for now, best actor, and he could win the thing, and I'm not going to blink twice and say bad pick. No, he was terrific in the film. So, that's without me seeing Maestro yet though, of course, but yeah. Yeah, so that being said, with Lily Gladstone out, I did put both Danielle Brooks and Taraji P. Henson in for The Color Purple, so I have both them in. So I have Danielle in second and Taraji P. Henson in fourth. And I'm keeping Julianne Moore in there in fifth for May, December for now, but yeah, again, that feels like, okay, if I think it's one of those things where both of them go in, it does help that both of them are already Oscar winners, and as we've seen, sometimes when you have an open-ish slot in these acting races, a previous winner is a really good pick to go to. So, you got Davy Joy Randolph, who is really close here. I did have Viola Davis in there for a while, but Air, it feels like that one's fading a little bit. Plus, let's not forget last year, too, Viola Davis, at the last, even though I was evading her the whole year for The Woman King, I was like, something, I'm just getting some negative energy from this, even though the reviews were great, even though the box office was actually pretty good, and the reviews were really good on the film, and it had been appearing consistently through the award season. I was like, I don't know, I'm just getting vibes that this one's going to miss. And at the last minute, out of peer pressure, because she'd been in everywhere, I'm like, I'm going to feel like an idiot if I put her in, or if I don't put her in, and I've been saying all the time she's not going to make it, and then she shows up, I'm like, why was I not even on that? Yep. And then she missed right after right the last minute when I put her in, she missed. I'm like, damn it. So, anyways, so remember she was kind of, and that one though too. To be fair though, we thought that one costume design, production design, or maybe one of those other tech categories, it had a chance to get into, but it missed everything. And right now at this point, Air, really this category for her and maybe original screenplay are like the only two that are a strong possibility for Air at this point. I think. Yeah, and even then I feel like original screenplay, even though it's a little weaker this year, I'm not so sure that one's going to hit in that category. Boy, it does feel like after that we are kind of thinning out after that, because Penelope Cruz, who got a few good notices for Ferrari, is kind of up there for a couple of people. Yeah, I don't know. Tilda Swinton got a couple good notices for The Killer, so maybe. Vanessa Kirby we've heard some good things early out on that one from Napoleon. Yeah, after that it just feels really thin after that. So to the screenplay categories, and we're out of here. Original screenplay, for now, it sounds like Barbie is going to be contending over here. I'm convinced, though, and unfortunately I don't know if I can, on Gold Derby at least, I can't predict Barbie to be an adapted, I don't think, at this point, unless they changed it. No, you cannot even pick it an adapted screen, because I'm convinced, if Moonlight got moved over from original to adapted, it's sure as shit going to happen to Barbie. I'm just convinced it's going to happen. Because this, the Barbie and Ken characters have been around for so long. I just think the ruling on this is going to have to be it's an adapted. So because it's only on the original side, I kind of looked at it here. I'm like, okay, Past Lives I still have out front. Maestro in second. Anatomy of a Fall in third. I have Barbie in fourth, and Holdovers I do have in for fifth place here for the screenplays. So May, December I had in there for a little bit. That one I've pulled. Saltburn is a possibility. Air is a possibility here. Rustin could sneak in, but again, it feels like Coleman Domingo is the really big press on that one. Napoleon is going to contend here. Asteroid City, and again after that, it does feel a little thin. Over to the adapted side, I now have Oppenheimer out front. I think I had that out front last time. Killers of the Flower Moon in second. Zone of Interest in third. Poor Things in fourth. And American Fiction I've now put in fifth place. So I did pull Spider-Man. Yeah, but again, that might be a first move, and then maybe another move down the road as I do take that one out for Best Picture and just keep it in some of the other categories. But yeah, again, that one, like we've seen from the other animated features out there that do get the picture nomination, you need support from a sound category, something from the music categories, screenplay. You need all those or a mix of those to get in for Best Picture. And yeah, since adapted is going to be a lot tougher this year, because you got All of Us Strangers, you've got Origin, you've got The Color Purple, you've got possibly a couple other ones in there that could sneak in. On top of all the other ones we mentioned here, that's tougher. That's a little tougher. So, yeah. Yep, all right, so that's what I have for now. We'll probably come back here. I'm not sure when. We've got New York Film Festival coming up in late September, early October-ish in there. I usually, with the Golden Globes, I don't usually start predicting those until like mid-October to late October. So that probably won't be the next one, but that'll be one I'll have coming pretty soon. Yeah, I don't know. We might just wait until we get a little more news, see if we get any more late breaking news like we did about Lily Gladstone today, about any category switches. We'll see about obviously with the Barbie thing with screenplay. We'll see where that ends up. But again, I've got it in original now just because that's where I have to put it, but I feel like that one's going to end up in adapted. It just feels like a foregone conclusion at this point. Yeah, so it'll probably be a hot minute here before we get back to it, but that's my update for today. So we'll see everybody back next time.